we're actually up against a lot of different forces. You know, you have the collective information coming in, you have the media, the TV devices, you have your society when we go out to work and people perpetuating these same types of ideas that are coming in, right?
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, so I see it all, but now I need to create a program or a disciplined way of living in order to be able to navigate through this so they don't affect me, so they don't hurt me. So I
Yeah.
am my best friend or I'm the best husband or best man that I can be or woman. And that's why people are going through a lot of stress right now, because there's a lot of things that are coming in that people don't even understand and they believe it's them. And what I'm doing is I'm creating now a new way, a lifestyle to live by to increase your potential and your human performance, you know, being the best human you can be. We're talking a lot about how like thoughts come to our mind, you know, and we're kind of like wondering like, where are these thoughts coming from, you know? And they're kind of like obtrusive thoughts sometimes.
Yeah.
For the longest time that, you know, we thought those belonged to us because they were coming within here, right?
Mm.
And so now like the more and more I'm working with it, it's like, you know, the thoughts aren't coming in that isn't part of your present because they're very similar to maybe thoughts you've had yesterday or a week ago, or in this case, your whole life. It kind of makes you ask the question, like, why are we receiving these repetitive thoughts? And so I started looking at myself like basically an antenna of information tuned in to a specific frequency where those thoughts are coming in. Now you can see that when you're in a good mood or you're in a different state, you know, all of a sudden you're receiving all the good thoughts. Or, you know, there's times when you're able to, like, everything comes easy to you and you can figure out problem solving, and other days you're flat. And it's like, again, we attribute that selves to us, but in fact, maybe we are something entirely different. Picture us like a TV with an antenna with the ability to change channels and tap into different frequencies or different channels, right? So obviously if you're on a channel where you're hearing all those crazy thoughts, then you know you're on that channel. So I think now what people are starting to learn is how to change their frequency and connect to another pathway to pull in something different, just like a TV pulls in channel 5, 7, or in the cases of pay-per-view, you know, you're going to go to the pay-per-view channel, right? Humans possess technology very similar to what we create in computers, cell phones, tablets, and stuff like that.
That thought is in opposition to like a belief that our thoughts are all within our memory, right? Our stored memories from personal experiences. And what you're talking about is we're actually tapping into an external source of thoughts, right?
Well, yeah, and so we have those experiences, but where are they stored? So if you think back to technology again, we have like a cloud storage system, right?
Yeah.
And then we also have storage within our computer, which would be the hard drive. So we have two of those. Within our DNA, they've already proved that they can store data in our DNA and extract it and upload it on a computer. So that's saying right there that there's an internal storage system. And then there's also external, meaning that like on your computer, well, you have folders. But those folders can also be created on the cloud, which you know aren't a part of you, but they're out in a virtual setting, right?
Yeah.
In the space that you think where there's nothing there, there's actually spaces for you with folders that map to those memories that are stored in the cloud. And then tapping into other people's feelings and emotions, that would be like searching the internet, and then you're going out and geez, you can put in any URL you want and you can receive bad information, good information, information in between. You can watch different videos, you can just listen to music. All that information is out there as well. You're receiving a combination of people's external thoughts and emotions that are circulating on the web of humans, because we're all connected. They've proven that. You have your own internal storage within your DNA, and then cloud storage where you're putting some of these thoughts as well. So it's quite complicated when you start to navigate through all of this stuff, you know, and it's just practice. Like when you first get your computer and you're starting to learn, okay, where's the hard drive? Oh, I need to store it in this section. Oh no, this is on my desktop. It becomes complicated until you know how to do it.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's multifaceted. It's not one memory bank. There's multiple signals coming into your thoughts. Your thoughts are coming from not just inside, not just from your DNA, but also from external sources.
So imagine you being told that you were something different as a human, like you didn't even know what a computer was, and then I put a computer on your lap and said, okay, now you have to learn how to do all this. It's going to take time. So that's why people are confused at going through this transition or trying to learn like how this all works within the human is like foreign to us, because now it's like, oh, whoa, so we're this? Oh, okay. So, and then if you're not practicing your computer every day, like how are you going to get good at it?
Yeah, you gotta learn how to tap in.
Yeah, and it's just like shooting a basketball, or like how we used to play football. Like every day we'd run patterns. You know, you run a post pattern, but then you run it over and over again, and you find out like, oh, okay, I can pivot this way or pivot that way. It's finding the details within each thing that you're practicing, and it's the same with the whole body.
We gotta practice tapping into these positive energies and not the negative ones. Yeah.
It's
I'm really
tough.
good at tapping into the negative.
We are, and that's another good question, right? Like, why is that? Why do we get so drawn into that? So this is one theory I have behind it, is understanding now that we're all connected within quantum entanglement, quantum physics. They've already proven that if the majority of the population are tuned into those negative thoughts, then that signal is going to be quite strong within you.
Yeah.
That's why it's difficult in order to stay on other frequencies. Like, for example, if you remember during 9/11, what happened was they had actually tested, there was these little signal devices all around the world that were measuring emotions within people, and that one single event changed the frequency of the entire planet of people. For example, when you propagate wars and you do all this other stuff, and like let's say in the Middle East there's a lot of instability, or in Russia, we're going to feel all of that. Imagine if all of those people are thinking about death and dying and sadness and stress, and then now we're kind of like locked in that signal, and then a lot of that has to do with what we experience with what you're saying, like into those negative, type of frequencies. That's why it's so hard right now, because there may be wars going on, but there's other wars going on within people because of this connection. And then there's people that run this whole show that understand how it works. So in other words, to attack Jeremy in San Jose, you don't necessarily need to go knock on his door. You can attack a certain percentage of the population, and you'll know that'll have an effect on Jeremy and San Jose.
And through multiple channels, right? Through media, through quantum entanglement, through multiple sources, and they know how to do it, so they're effective at it.
Yeah, and so like, for example, if everybody didn't watch the news, for example, totally cut that out and just focused on cultivating love and fun and everything within each individual, then that will shift that frequency on the planet. But, people are into this whole, they do work all day, they put on the TV, they think news is the thing to watch, and they get sucked into something they don't even know that they're getting sucked into, which is propagating these negative vibrational signals that are felt around the planet. And so it's this that people need to become aware of in order to say, hey, I know what's going on now, but now I need to have discipline. Where I reach for the TV, I'm going to go outside and cut grass. But what happens? A lot of times we'll try to break off and do positive stuff, but those negative things will keep coming in. That tunes you into that signal, and you'll notice when you have that negativity feeling, you'll go on the news to try to match it. You'll try to feed in because that's what you're feeling, so you'll try to match that signal. This is all about resilience within human beings, meaning that just like, when I go and train in the gym, you're going to try a resistance that you're not used to feeling, and it's very uncomfortable. So the people that back out of it, which would be the guys that would want to go and watch the news, are not going to have the discipline to push through that barrier, feel that pain, and still stay with, resonance that you want to be in. It becomes another workout in itself.
They call it doom scrolling, where you're constantly looking at negative stuff on Instagram or whatever, the nonstop scroll. And some people's, if they're always looking at violence or whatever, that's constantly what it recommends on their feed, and then they're always seeing the same thing, right? It's their confirmation bias, and that's what we feed on. You can even become addicted to negative thoughts.
It produces chemicals. So scrolling is a big problem. It does multiple things. So if you're using it for dopamine, like feeling good, it's going to create a withdrawal symptoms if you're not receiving it. So then you're going to want to grab it again, or maybe another kind of distraction that's going to give you that. And then what you were referring to as getting addicted to the negative thought patterns, again, it's also releasing chemicals like norepinephrine or cortisol, and then it becomes a familiar feeling. So then you're wanting to kind of like get the awe factor, which is going to produce adrenaline, and all this other stuff. So it's a digital drug machine, and people need to become aware of this and actually be very careful when navigating through that.
Be careful what you're looking at. Be careful what you're feeding your mind.
Be careful what you're putting in here. Seeing, well, it depends on how you react to it. Hearing depends on how you react to it. So also the makers of media know that every time that you react to something, that's the trigger for a chemical release in the body. which creates a potential for addiction to that particular feeling. And that's why you have all these, advertisers, with foods and
Mhm.
this and that. And then they do keen things like, moving colors into it and different volumes and vibrational, frequencies. And, they know it on a deep level. So there's new technologies where people can make a lot of money and stuff. But we have to understand that, there could be consequences for that. So how do we become aware of that and navigate that? And the first step is to learn how, like what's going
Yeah.
on and what's going on here. We're actually up against a lot of different forces. You have the collective information coming in, you have the media, the TV devices, you have your society when we go out to work and people perpetuating these same types of ideas that are coming in, right?
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, so I see it all, but now I need to create a program or a disciplined way of living in order to be able to navigate through this so they don't affect me, so they don't hurt me. So I
Yeah.
am my best friend or I'm the best husband or best man that I can be or woman. And that's why people are going through a lot of stress right now, because there's a lot of things that are coming in that people don't even understand and they believe it's them. And what I'm doing is I'm creating now a new way, a lifestyle to live by to increase your potential and your human performance, being the best human you can be. And that I come from a background of physical fitness. I've been a trainer now for 30 years. I've done bodybuilding for 34 years. I've competed for 20 years. So in order to do any type of athletic competition, you need to be very disciplined. What I found out that you have to be very disciplined at becoming the best human you can be. And it's no different than becoming a great basketball player, football player, bodybuilder like I was. And so now I've had to change my whole lifestyle around these things that we've talked about, referring to, the dangers of the cell phone use or the foods that I put in my mouth, which the foods go both for physical and now spiritual evolution as well. Where am I placing my focus? And I've also noticed that, how sometimes it's hard to focus, unfocused, like that ADD that people are referring to, that can also be affected by the collective. So if the collective is in fear and has anxiety, it's hard for you to be focused because when you tap into that as well. So again, going back to my expertise in athletics and being a competitor, I've had to create a new lifestyle, a lifestyle that is repeated day to day until it becomes the new me. That's what this is all about. Is it's finding out how to work with it. You're playing basketball. How do you dribble? What are the drills that I need to run every day? I need to do my shooting. I need to do my dribbling. And the work with this stuff is exactly the same until you become a better you. A lot of people that are struggling in life and they're trying to figure out like, hey, why am I struggling? There's a lot of information and programs that people offer, in evolution and self-help and all these kind of things. But the question is do you want to be an amateur or do you want to be a professional? As people do workshops or go through programs and they're having some level of success, but not the level of success that they want, they got to ask themselves, hey, maybe I'm not doing enough to reap the benefits about what I want to see. It's being honest with yourself and saying, hey, well, how much time am I putting into this every day? But then again, we have, daily life, we have kids, you have kids, we have work, we have this, we have that. Some people that have that lifestyle but still become a bodybuilder, you got to understand, well, I guess they're making it happen anyway. So some people just make things happen and some people don't. I'm starting to see that it is exactly the same in this work as well, in terms of how to get your body to perform, your mind, your body, and your soul to perform in the best way it can.
It seems like a major problem for a lot of people is that we work 40 hours a week at least. You have families. You come home, you have very limited time to make the proper choices of what you consume. Consuming food-wise, external media sources, things like that are influencing our thought processes are very limited. And so many of us are addicted to the mainstream entertainment, and we just come home from the daily grind and want to sit down, and we don't necessarily focus on what you're talking about, which is making the positive choices and really taking care of your mental health and focusing on your thoughts. What are you thinking about? What are you consuming? Because that's going to directly affect how you feel day to day.
And some people are happy with their current lifestyle, and that's okay. I think within every individual, it's different. But I think most people struggle. And what I mean by that is they may have their current life or whatever, but they're still like unhappy about something and they can't figure out like what exactly it is. Something doesn't feel right, but it's just like, okay, well, I'll just deal with it. I got to keep going. How often do I hear everybody in my fitness career, right? Like I was a trainer. I want to have a body like yours, or I want to, I want this, I want that, but they don't get it done, right?
Yeah.
it's really hard. For example, you get home and you're tired, right? Why is it that some people are still exhausted, but they're like, no, okay, I'm gonna eat this or whatever, and I'm going in the gym. What happens is like that tiredness you're getting every day at that specific time is actually logged in your brain. When you go into the gym, you feel like shit. And that uncomfortable feeling makes you want to like, no, bro, I just want to rest, dude. And really it's more mental, but we feel it physically because the feeling of it, we're giving that a label and what it means. How about if I said like 100 times that, oh no, you feel that? And I go, how do you feel? And you go, oh, I'm tired. And I go, oh, well, no, that's actually energy coming in your body. Now, let's say you shifted your perspective on that. Like, actually, I just plugged you into a port and you're actually receiving energy. He says, oh, but it feels like the tired feeling. Oh, well, that's what somebody labeled it a long time ago, but I'm charging you. Oh, okay. Now you're actually projecting an image of you getting pumped up with energy. The mind works as such, like you can keep practicing that and change your perspective of the feeling. But here's the tough part of it is we've been feeling it for 40 years, right? So in order to flip that, it's like constant change. It's very similar to learning an instrument. If you go and start playing guitar today, you're not going to strum too well. And tomorrow you're not going to strum too well. And 3 days later, maybe 2 strings, but you're still going to be kind of, but if you did that every single day, for some reason, the brain and body adapts and it will just go. But that uncomfortable period of time to make it through the adaptation is what people have to suffer through or pass through with faith. And the biggest reason that I see that people can't make it through that difficult time of change is because in their mind, they have not developed the vision connected to a feeling that if they were to see that through, it's going to feel like this. For some reason or another, if you can connect to your outcome, your future outcome, in that moment, it actually produces a chemical in your body that gives you motivation. And we've all experienced it, right? Some days you'll think of something and all of a sudden you have this burst of energy and you get through it. And then other days not. It's just because you produce that chemical, or it may even be more than chemical. It could be an energetic connection within the universe that allows you to receive that energy. From 1 minute to the next, we could be exhausted and all of a sudden, oh yeah, Ken, I got energy now. What did you do? Well, I didn't do anything. I just feel energy now. Well, that's got to be maybe more than chemical. Something maybe just happened. Maybe you shifted and connected to another port of energy.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot. Sudden burst, right? Yeah, sudden motivation that one day from the next, I have none of it. And then it's like, boom, go do A, B, C, and D, and you don't stop all day.
Right.
So it's interesting how that works.
Yeah, or you're staying on the couch and then you just kind of off in space a little bit and you're just kind of think of something that interests you and you kind of go in that la la land, right? And then all of a sudden you connect to this feeling of it and you're like, oh yeah, I want that. And then all of a sudden you can get up and clean your whole backyard.
So I did yesterday.
So what did you think about? What made you do it?
I thought about how the finished product would look. That gave me the rush. So there's obviously some chemical release there with that thought process, and obviously a positive thought process, and put me to work. And so, I know sitting on the couch as well, that habit and that it's a reward system as well. We release dopamine, but there's an endorphin rush to coming home and telling yourself you're tired and you're going to sit down and watch TV. Right. There is a reward there. It's not a good one because the result is feeling crappy about it the next day, probably, if you wanted to work out instead.
So that's good. All these things we're talking about. I think it's important that people say, okay, here's the thing though. It's like, okay, I get it. Oh yeah, I totally understand. I totally understand what they're talking about. Okay, but now how are you going to structure? You got to break it up now. Okay, so when I feel kind of down or low energy, I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to think of, okay, what is it that I need to get done? Okay, now let me think more about the finished product. Like, what is it going to look like? What is it going to feel like? And it's going to feel uncomfortable, but you got to try to tap into it. And I think if you just get good enough at it, you can kind of on demand and
visualize it and feel it, think about it.
First it's the visual and then the thought. And then you just keep working with it, smile. I kind of focus in on my heart, smile, and then I just keep going. And as soon as I connect to it, and then boom, it's there. What we spoke about, the distractions on TV, the distractions on social media, that keeps you from cultivating that ability to do that. So if you notice that you produce that from inside, if you're going to look at an external source for these feelings, that's where you're going to go. And it's not the same. The internal makes you move. The external gets you addicted to that external. So you're going to call more upon that and less upon this. That is the spiritual war here that people are up against that they don't understand. So that's what I'm saying. If you're boxing and you don't see the left hook and you get hit, you're going to get knocked out. So here it's about seeing okay, what am I doing and what does it mean on a higher level? What is it doing to me? Now people start paying attention to, oh, I don't feel motivated. Oh, I feel a lot of anxiety. Oh, I just don't know what to do. I'm tired. Okay, now we got to look at these devices, look at where I'm spending my time. How am I using it? It's really difficult to say this, but just like people get addicted to narcotics, whether they're like opiates or cocaine or methamphetamine or whatever, and the withdrawal becomes extremely difficult to get off of. I've looked at the brain scans and the chemical releases in the body. This stuff with the social media stuff is no different in terms of withdrawal symptoms. Imagine the government is making all the drugs illegal and punishable because of the so-called bad effects that they have on the population, but social media has the same, if not worse, effects on the brain, but there's no consequence. They've tapped into a source of money that they can extract from that, but the drug dealers are doing the other stuff on the side, so they can't manage those profits. So that's why one becomes illegal and not the other ones. But they give you the false idea of that, no, we're doing it to protect the citizens. Okay, well, let's look at both brain scans. Oh, looks like it's just as dangerous. Now let's look at your guys' bank accounts. See where we're going with this?
Yeah.
This is very unfortunate, but you know what? More and more people are going to see it, and then we're going to see later on what people have to answer to, and that. So that's all I got to say on that. In the meantime, we need to take care of ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and the good thing that I like from you is that you are immersed in a very busy lifestyle. You have the career, you have the big family, you have a lot of obligations, and then I am kind of like on the other side. I think what's really good too is that most people, I think, fall in your category where they're trying to, they want to make changes, but how can they make changes with the limited time that they have? You fit that thing. And then here I'm on the other side saying, okay, well, I have a lot more time. Maybe I can focus on this all day long, but how can I integrate it into maybe a lifestyle that looks more like yours? Because I think the majority of the people that I'm going to be helping is people that fall into that category, because that's where the challenge is, right?
People who are in my boat just need to focus on how they are spending their time. How are they managing their limited time? Because you can do it in a very healthy way and feel good, or you could fall into a loop of doing something negative and not even realize it, because the rewards from your social media feel good, but what are you really gaining from it? Because the rewards from a workout after a day at work would probably feel better, or cooking a home cooked meal, with quality ingredients. It's going to be a lot more rewarding, And I know I battle with that all the time. I might have a streak of being really good, but then I fall into the old loop. So it is constant work. Obviously our conversations have definitely helped me be aware of those choices and how it affects my life.
Even though you don't eat as much, the food is a little bit difficult for you. What makes it that you find that as difficult as it is to manage the fresh foods and prepare it perfectly and all that stuff? I know.
Just the amount of time it takes for food prep. That's my main excuse, right? Just being lazy, not wanting to cook. I'd rather have something prepared for me.
I actually do the cooking, but
you're a good cook. I want to cook. I have excuses. They're not good ones, but like my kitchen's too small, things like that. I fall into that loop. If I had a big kitchen, I'd cook every day. Realistically, I probably wouldn't, because time would still be one of those things that would put cooking on the back burner for a time doing something else. But
right.
It needs to become a priority. I started doing some healthy meal service. That's helped me out. Like in the last, I think I've been using it for about 6 months. I get at least 2 good meals a day.
I grow my own vegetables now and everything, and I got way more time than you, and still it's difficult to manage all of this stuff. Like, I'm making my own water, I'm doing my own vegetables, and I prep food, but then I still gotta how do I do my work and my business and do this and do that and walk the dogs, and it's impacted, man.
It's tough to manage that. You're managing your water, your vegetables, and then cooking the stuff, the food. Walking dogs, running a business. You're not a full-time farmer. It's difficult.
And I think that's the toughest thing for people, is because we realize that we kind of have to go back and take control of our own foods now, because we know that they're not the best for us anymore. But wow, I remember my grandparents used to go to work 8 hours. They used to come home and tend to their garden additional 3 hours after that.
That's impressive.
Maybe an hour or two of TV indoctrination TV at night with all that news crap that they used to listen to. But man, it was just all day work and then physical work in the garden, bro. I was kind of turned off by it. I'm like, oh no, time's important to me. So here's the thing. So we want more time for ourselves to do all those fun activities, but we're willing to give up our health for that.
Yeah. Which shortens our time ultimately.
It's a tough juggle.
Yeah.
I want to finish up today by saying that I have now created a new lifestyle for myself with the same type of discipline that I used in bodybuilding to achieve success. There are no shortcuts. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. You need to develop a type of human resilience where you can pass through times of extreme like challenge, you know. On the other side of that, there's a type of joy and a type of feeling that is rewarding. I think that people just need to really like to say, well, you know what, I'm going to do it anyways, and let's see how this feels. Because you can always go back to the back. You know, if you don't like it, you can always go back.
Easy to go back.
Yeah, and then also to finish up, that I think that just like fitness, just like trainers and everything, if you go online, everybody talks about how to get out. Everybody talks about the perfect diet. Everybody talks about how to do the training. And then they sell these courses online, but then it never works because people don't stick to them, right? It's kind of like me as a personal trainer telling you what you have to do, but then you don't have any one-on-one sessions with me. Is it a difference that if you train with a trainer like right in front of you, it's a different feeling, right? So I've noticed in this spiritual type of work or this new age of coaches and trainers, a lot of people, to save their own time, are trying to just give information like, oh yeah, abs, no problem, just do this. But hey, nobody wants to spend the time, the work, like, hey, face to face, hey, what does this stuff look like? What does it feel like? Do I know? Am I feeling the right pain? And what's happening is there's this need to, for the sake of time and money, to expand, you know, let me touch as many people as I can. But when you're dealing with a type of work or training to overcome the body, like physical transformation or anything, it really takes more than just information. And so I think the job or benefit that a good coach can do is to make sure that people are feeling what they need to and doing what they need to make sure they pass through those barriers. And I'm not seeing enough of the coaches and guides and spiritual teachers putting their army boots on and getting on the field with the recruits, you know, with the people that they're trying to help train. Yeah, it's really easy to say, oh yeah, you know, those are the enemies over there, just go run and charge, you know, and the general back over there having a coffee and a nice meal while people are getting killed, right?
Yeah.
So what is my purpose in all this? What am I here to do? I'm here to actually boots on the ground. I want to get on the ground, just like I did in training people. Sometimes I'd train with my clients. They would look at me and go, wow, this dude's really going after it. That motivates you to be like, wow, okay. He showed me that he's not afraid. Well, I can do it too. And so I think there needs to be a lot more one-on-one sessions. Yeah, we can't make a lot of money doing that because we can only do so many a day, right? Yeah. But people need enough time with a coach or trainer in order to they start to get some of those benefits where they can then do it on their own. And I think there's too many people grabbing just small pieces of information, but then once they get on the playing field, they don't know how to, you know, oh my gosh, then it's back in the fear again. And then they're purchasing another program or buying another book with no change. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to get at and speak about too, you know, and this.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Let's try to do this next week too.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it. I enjoyed it. Thanks, man. For,
yeah. So yeah, have a good day, and I'll stay in touch with you. And this is amazing.
All right,
okay.
man.
All right.
Talk to you later. All right,
okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.